Right, let's go through what's making the headlines today. Don Neeson and Freddie Gray with their views on those things. There's a video. Let's have a look at this, and this is on Twitter. It was tweeted out by the editor of the Jewish Chronicle, and so apparently you can be abused going into McDonald's. They can let mice out and whatever. But Don, what are we seeing here?
This is Kentucky Fried Chicken or KFC, and they are chanting Palestinian peace protest, chanting quite aggressively and sticking posters up about the children that have been killed in Palestine. I'm not quite sure what KFC have done. I know the McDonald's link is the fact that McDonald's in Israel, which are franchises, remember, are giving discounted meals out to the IDF fighters. So I get why McDonald's. I'm not quite sure what KFC have done to deserve this. But my issue with the video that shocked me was a little boy coming out of McDonald's. I think it was the other day. Little boy with his mum coming out of McDonald's, clutching his little box, and there were a group of grown people screaming abuse at him. Shame on you.
You see, I can get it if you're screaming abuse because of the constitution of the food or something like that, you know, which should be well served. But as for whatever political intention there was from KFC or McDonald's?
Well, I think it's some vague, and all these things are completely illogical. Every story we're talking about this morning seems to be illogical, whether it's the Rockaby Venus, whether it's the poppies. Everything is... reason is breaking down. I suppose there might be some tenuous thought that Kentucky is America. We hate America because America backs Israel. Something like that. But there's also this curious element. Have you heard about the mice?
Yeah, we talked about it on this programme.
Releasing the mice.
Coordinated and quite difficult to come up with those numbers of mice.
And I think, given some of the rumours not proven about KFC, I think the staff might think, oh, there we go, there's another bargain bucket.
Check your bargain bucket.
In all seriousness, though, where is this all going? The division, you know, the Arab world on one side, the West apparently on the other side, and yet now we hear from the Palestinian Health Ministry, obviously backed by Hamas or run by Hamas, saying 10,000 civilian deaths. All that is creating is the whole next generation of people who are fueled with hatred. The situation is only going to get worse, and I do despair.
Well, and Netanyahu saying last night, that they might occupy Gaza City for an unspecified period of time. That is going to be an extremely dangerous situation. There are no good outcomes at the moment. I really don't think there are.
We were talking about this during the break because you had a meeting with some Qataris yesterday, and some of the Hamas leaders are in Qatar, aren't they? And it's like, well, what is the end game? Nobody seems to know what the end game actually is.
It seems impossible to even dream of a two-state solution when both sides want to wipe each other out. And yet a two-state solution, I personally, from my limited amount of knowledge, think it seems to be the only way of resolving this.
Well, and the pressure will have to come from Egypt, Jordan, the Gulf states around will have to do something themselves to relieve the situation. And Egypt's been very unwilling.
And Jordan, I was just reading tweets that the King Abdullah was putting out yesterday, giving their unswerving, unrelenting support to Palestine. So they have a clear position in this, and you know...
Well, they have to, because, I mean, they are largely Palestinians. In Jordan, and then Egypt is worried because they don't want to have to go through what Jordan had to go through and have to take in an enormous number of very poor refugees.
I think the confusion here as well, it's still the confusion, even though we are a month on from the original attack, it's confusion Palestine with Hamas. I mean, Hamas are terrorists. They're the ones that went into Israel and did that. And the fact that so many Palestinian civilians, especially the children and the babies, are dying.
Well, the Israelis have been saying, and it's a fair point, you know, repeatedly, we are not targeting civilians, but we cannot destroy these terrorists who committed these horrific atrocities without hurting civilians, because they are hiding amongst them, and it is an impossible...
Well, it isn't impossible. It's not impossible. What's the word? The extraneous casualties that are coming into this surely is totally unacceptable. They're just killing people. They say they're not targeting civilians. They couldn't do worse if they did target civilians. They couldn't kill any more than they actually are at the moment. So, I mean, we accept that. We go, oh, well, they're not targeting civilians. 10,000 civilians have been killed.
Well, we do have, that is from Hamas, that claim, which we do have to take with a pinch of salt because they are unreliable. I'm not saying that both sides
thousands.
don't
It's easy
spin.
to see.
No, of course,
from the
it's a massive,
yes.
but it's very hard to conduct this operation. I'm not
Special
saying...
forces?
Special forces going into those tunnels could get extremely violent very, very quickly.
Well, also the hostages are in the tunnels, so that's the big fear there.
People keep forgetting they're still...
So what, you just drop a bomb and you can kill, 1,000
people? No, I'm not saying that. That's the last thing I'm saying, but I don't think there is an easy answer. And I think it has to be, and I do think Netanyahu showed a chink of light, a bit of hope when he said that there could be very little pauses.
Yes.
Antonio Guterres yesterday saying that parties to the conflict, both parties and indeed the international community, face an immediate and fundamental responsibility to stop this inhuman collective suffering and dramatically expand humanitarian aid to Gaza. And he's spot on with that, I think.
He is spot on, but the trouble is they're totally toothless, aren't they? The UN, they can't do anything. They can come out with these statements and everyone goes, yeah, that's so right, but then what happens?
Yeah, and you move civilians around. Hamas hide under the skirts of these people. And, what changes? Who knows? This situation, Freddie, in a nursery school in Germany. Now, this is the sort of thing that really disturbs me. The home of Anne Frank. I've been there. Anybody else been there?
Yeah, in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I've never been.
But anyway, this is the Anne Frank nursery. Tell us more, Freddie, or it won't be for much longer.
If you'd said to me 10 years ago that an Anne Frank nursery would be renamed on diversity grounds 10 years ago, I would not have believed you. But now, again, completely illogically, it has been. Because it's going to be renamed as the World Explorer Kindergarten, a more benign name. But who would possibly be, unless you really hate Jewish people and think that they should be killed, who would possibly object to a nursery being named after Anne Frank, who is this, heroic figure?
I've read that some people were saying people didn't know who Anne Frank was and that they thought it was sort of obscure.
Well, it's a kindergarten, great place to learn.
Great, exactly. Yeah. Fair point.
Exactly, yeah. It's just, as Eamonn said, if you go to Anne Frank's house, remember she was in hiding there with her family from the Nazis during the Second World War and was eventually killed in one of the concentration camps. But if you go to that house and you go to the rooms that Anne and her family lived in, it's utterly chilling.
They're completely bare.
What people had to go through, and you try and walk across the floor because it had to be so quiet because there was people underneath that would have grasped them up to the Nazis, basically. And you try and walk across the floor on the top floor, Isabel, being so quiet, and they had to live like that for months.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
nothing.
I was lucky enough to film in it, and the house was closed down so that we could film it. So we were the only people inside it. It's very, very tiny.
She was a child. We're talking about the deaths of children now.
Very clever, wonderful book. I thoroughly enjoyed reading her diary.
What do you make of Donald Trump and the whole situation in the USA and the theatre? And Freddie, I don't... he's a man in his 70s. It must be really stressful, this, no matter what advantage he's taking off it.
Well, that's a key question. Does this strain break him? Because the strain of running for president is just about the most stressful thing you can do. And then he's got countless legal cases going on against him. Does he buckle on the strain? And there have been some signs that he is sounding quite fatigued.
He looks as strong as an ox.
Some of his... he's always strange in the way he talks, but there have been a couple of indications. And always you have to take into account...
Funny colours, I've noticed.
But then, yeah, well... voters look at that and then they set him against Joe Biden, who clearly can't really talk or walk, and he's not doing very well. And so I think voters are very torn there when they look at that. And as far as the legal trials are concerned, I think it's all mostly sound and fury signifying nothing, particularly this case against the Trump family. Yes, it will annoy the Trumps. It'll hurt them financially. It's going to make no difference against him politically. The only difference it will make is for him, because people can see that it's a political trial. The judge kept on saying this is not a political campaign.
If you can't control your client, I will.
But yes, exactly. Good luck with that. Is the only answer.
The more legal case he has against him, the more popular he becomes.
But only surely with this particular wing. Tell me more, because I always find this really hard to square, because I think of Republicans, I think of you know, law and order, people who are often church-abiding, seeing the disrespect to a judge, and I know that the system's more politicised than in the UK, you know, that's, you know, surely not a Conservative leader there.
I think it fires up the Trump base, that's for sure, in support of Trump. But I do think there's evidence in the polls that independents think this is a show trial. This is all farce. And what voters really care about is, did they feel better off under Donald Trump or Joe Biden? And at the moment, even though the Biden administration will tell you that the US economy is very strong, voters felt that they were doing better financially under Trump, and that's why he's doing better in the polls.
Freddie, tell me this. Is it a given that it's going to be Joe Biden?
No. I mean,
Blinken, he's rather statesman-like on
He's
the old...
actually doing not too bad a job, is he?
stage.
I mean,
yeah.
He visited Israel, and then the next day there are murmurs about, well, maybe we will allow some sort of break in the fighting. So.
Well, I think, I mean, Obama's intervention at the weekend was quite interesting.
On his anniversary, 15
not
years?
helping Biden at all, pushing Biden in a difficult position over the Middle East. David Axelrod, Obama's former advisor, came out over the weekend and said, you know, maybe Joe needs to think about whether he's helping us. So, yes, there's always been these sort of... Ever since Biden became president, there's been these rumours that the Democrats aren't comfortable with him. They're going to mount some sort of coup against him. But ultimately, if Biden doesn't want to step down and isn't forced to step down through ill health, it's hard to see how they get rid of him.
The opinion polls aren't for him, though, are they? Going very...
No, but Trump wins. As things stand, Trump wins.
Gosh.
Yeah, and the head of hair cunts, which Trump's got a lot of. And Anthony Blinken, he's got a great head of hair as well. And I tell you, in America, they don't like bald people. I hope you like the weather. It's true.
Is he Aidan McGivern?
Why don't you tell me who on American TV hasn't got hair?
Bruce Willis.